The nervous system develops from one of the primary germ layers. It develops from the ectoderm, which is the outer germ layer. So we have to remember that during embryonic development, you start off as a hollow ball of cells and then you start to elongate. As you start to elongate, one of the structures that develops from something known as mesoderm, the middle layer, is a structure known as a notochord, which is a rod-like structure that is responsible for sending out signals that will be involved in dorsoventral patterning in development. So one of the things that happens is that this notochord is going to send out signals, and it's going to send out signals to cells to start to differentiate and form something known as the neural crest. Okay, so the developing neurula will have an invagination on part of it, and these cells here are known as the neural crest cells. Now, over time, in embryonic development, what is going to happen is that those neural crest cells are going to continue to grow towards one another, like so. And let's go ahead and put our notochord in here. Like so. And this space in the middle, this space here, is going to be called the neural tube. And eventually what's going to happen is that that neural tube will sort of pinch off from the rest of the developing embryo, so you get something like this if we were to look in cross-section. Now remember, this is sort of an elongated structure here, right? And there is our neural tube, right? And so remember that, again, this is elongated, so it's really you looking like this, right? And that neural tube forms sort of in there, like so, right? Now, the nervous system is going to develop from that neural tube. So one of the things that happens inside of vertebrates is a process known as encephalization, which is an enlargement of the anterior portion of that neural tube. So if we look at that neural tube, what's going to happen is you're going to get these bulges out like this. Sort of a small bulge there, and then a bigger bulge here. So we end up with three main bulges at the anterior portion of that. Okay, and this is going to form what we call the primary brain vesicles. Right, and so from anterior to posterior, you have the prosencephalon. You have the mesencephalon. And then you have the rhombencephalon. Okay? So those are your primary brain vesicles. Now what happens is that these primary brain vesicles are going to continue to undergo further differentiation. So what we're going to end up having is, let's go with yellow here, you're going to get sort of an enlargement that looks like this. And we'll go with orange, where we have sort of a enlargement like this that sort of pockets out, comes down this way, like so. Then let's go with a red. So we have this here. And then we'll go with a blue, which is going to be another pocket here. And then we'll go with a green, which is another sort of pocket down here. And then we'll go with purple to be the spinal cord. Okay, so this purple down here, this is our spinal cord. All right, So what we have is that the prosencephalon, right, is going to divide into those two regions there, which are the telencephalon, and then in orange you have your diencephalon. Okay. Then you have your mesencephalon, which becomes the mesencephalon. No change in that one. Okay. And then you have your rhombencephalon, which is going to differentiate into the metencephalon, and then the myelencephalon. And these structures here, these are known as the secondary brain vesicles. So you have your primary brain vesicles, then you have your secondary brain vesicles. And then the secondary brain vesicles are going to further develop into the adult structures, right? So I'm going to do this we'll do this all in gray, right? Let's do it by color. Your telencephalon is going to become your cerebrum. Okay, so those are going to be your cerebral hemispheres. Okay, your diencephalon, which we have here in orange, that's going to become what we refer to as the diencephalon. And that is the thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. Then you have your mesencephalon, and that's going to become your brainstem and midbrain. In blue, we have our metencephalon, which is going to become brainstem pons. Okay. And portion of the brain known as the cerebellum. And then your myelencephalon, that is going to become a portion of the brainstem known as the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, right? And so these are your adult structures, right? So now the other thing that we have to think about is inside of here, this is an open tube, an open space, right? So this out here, this tissue, these cells are going to differentiate, they're going to divide via mitosis, but the space inside of here is also going to expand. Okay, like so. And what you end up with are enlarged open spaces that will eventually get filled with cerebrospinal fluid known as ventricles, right? So your telencephalon, this area here, this is going to become, in terms of your ventricles, this is going to become your lateral ventricles. Okay. In the region of your diencephalon, that's going to become what we call the third ventricle. Right? It's third because this is one lateral, left and right is numbers 1 and 2. Okay, and then the mesencephalon here, this is going to become a structure known as the cerebral aqueduct, and we'll look at this a little bit later on. Okay, and then your metencephalon, myelencephalon, that is going to be your fourth ventricle. Fourth ventricle. Okay, and so we'll look at those in a little bit more detail later on. But this is sort of the layout of the overall development and differentiation of the central nervous system.